The heat is cranking up, and with temperatures creeping toward 110 degrees Fahrenheit, it's hard to imagine surviving an Arizona summer without air conditioning. It sounds as crazy as wearing a wool sweater in a sauna. But the Amish, who are famous for shunning modern conveniences, have chosen to settle in one of the hottest places in the U.S. completely AC-free. Before you start sweating at the thought, let's ask the real question. How do they do it? Sure, sheer willpower plays a role, but there's a lot more to it. The Amish don't just endure the heat, they've mastered living with it, even thriving. Their secret? A blend of age-old methods, cultural mindset, and smart design. And here's the kicker. Their techniques have been around far longer than any modern gadget. Maybe they're onto something. Now, Arizona summers are no joke. We're talking peak temperatures of 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So hot you could fry an egg on the sidewalk. For most of us, the thought of surviving without blasting the AC is unimaginable. But here's something to chew on. Air conditioning didn't even exist for most of human history. It only became common in the mid-20th century. Before then, people relied on natural, time-tested methods to stay cool, methods the Amish still use today. Ever stepped into an old stone building on a sweltering day and noticed how refreshingly cool it feels inside? That's the kind of natural cooling the Amish aim for, but their tricks go far beyond thick walls. Here's a fun fact. While the Amish lifestyle can vary depending on where they live, the core principles remain the same. In Arizona, they've adapted their methods even more creatively to tackle the relentless desert heat. But don't worry, I'm not suggesting you ditch your AC and start wearing a bonnet. Let's leave that to the experts. Instead, let's explore how the Amish not only survive but thrive in the scorching Arizona heat. Believe it or not, they're living proof that electricity isn't a must-have for staying cool. And who knows, we might just pick up a few practical tips along the way. Now, toughness alone doesn't cut it when it's 115 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade. The Amish have a much smarter approach, starting with their homes. Imagine stepping into a cool cave in the middle of a blazing desert. Outside, the heat is unbearable, but inside it feels like another world, calm, cool, and livable. That's what walking into an Amish house in Arizona feels like. Their secret lies in thick walls made of natural materials like clay, adobe, and wood. These materials aren't just eco-friendly, they're incredibly effective at keeping the heat out. Think of it as living inside a giant thermos. Hot air stays outside while the inside remains comfortably cool. Here's the science behind it. Thick walls absorb heat from the sun slowly. By the time the heat starts to seep inside, the sun has already set, and the cooler desert air takes over. It's like standing in the shade of a fortress, completely shielded from the sun's blazing rays. I remember stepping into an old adobe house on a scorching summer afternoon. Outside, it felt like an oven. Inside, it was so cool it felt like someone had installed an invisible AC unit. That's the power of natural insulation. And this isn't just an Amish thing. Cultures worldwide have used similar techniques for centuries. Ancient desert civilizations in the Middle East, for example, built thick-walled homes to combat extreme heat. The Amish have simply perfected this timeless method, proving that sometimes the old ways really are the best ways. The use of thick walls and natural materials to stay cool isn't unique to the Amish. Cultures in North Africa and the Middle East have known for centuries that if you build with the right materials, you don't need fancy technology to stay comfortable in the heat. The Amish have kept this tradition alive, choosing to rely on natural wisdom instead of modern, energy-draining conveniences. Now let's dive deeper into why the materials the Amish use, like clay and adobe, are so effective. These materials are incredible at soaking up heat during the day and releasing it when the temperature drops at night. While the rest of us are sweating, scrambling to figure out how to keep our homes cool without draining our wallets, the Amish are enjoying homes that do most of the work for them. Their homes stay cool naturally, thanks to the materials themselves. Wood is another favorite building material for the Amish. Not only is it easy to find, but it's also a surprisingly good insulator when combined with clay. The wood helps maintain a steady indoor temperature, preventing sudden spikes in heat. It's like layering up in winter to keep warm, but in reverse, layering your home to keep the heat out. You might be thinking, sure, that works for the Amish, but wouldn't it be easier just to turn on the AC? Well, maybe, but here's the thing. Air conditioning uses a massive amount of energy, and that energy doesn't come free. In fact, during a typical Arizona summer, residents can spend upwards of $400 a month just to keep their homes cool. Meanwhile, the Amish are paying exactly zero for cooling, unless you count the cost of the wood and clay, which are much cheaper than an electric bill. Not only are their homes cooler in the summer, but the Amish aren't constantly depending on machines to survive the heat. While many of us are stuck in an endless cycle of high energy bills and battling with the AC when it can't keep up, the Amish are living comfortably in homes that practically cool themselves. And here's the kicker. They don't have to worry about power outages. Ever been stuck without power during a summer heat wave? Suddenly, that thick-walled house sounds like a dream, right? The Amish have it figured out. They've learned to work with nature, not against it. The natural materials used in their homes not only keep the heat out, but also ensure their homes are durable enough to survive the harsh desert climate for decades, if not longer. These homes are designed to last, with the added bonus of staying naturally cool. But the thick walls aren't the only trick the Amish have up their sleeves. Let's talk about something that's often overlooked in modern homes: high ceilings. And no, it's not because the Amish want their homes to feel like grand cathedrals or fancy mansions. There's a very practical reason behind these tall spaces, and it's all about beating the heat. Here's the deal. Hot air rises. It's a simple law of physics. But the Amish take full advantage of this principle. When the sun has been blazing all day, the air inside the house starts to warm up. But instead of letting all that hot air stay near the people living there, high ceilings allow it to naturally rise and stay out of reach. This is a smart, no-tech solution to staying cool. I remember the first time I walked into an Amish house. One of those moments that really makes you rethink how you live. The first thing I noticed was how much space was up near the ceiling. We're talking ceilings so high you could practically play basketball indoors. And then it hit me, or rather, it didn't hit me. The heat, that is. All the hot air had risen to the top, way out of reach. Down where I was standing, the air was cool and comfortable. It was like the house was designed to give you your own personal cool zone. Not bad for a house built without AC, right? And here's where things get even more interesting. The science behind high ceilings and how the Amish use them to their advantage is actually pretty genius. The Amish have a keen understanding of how to work with nature rather than fight against it. And it's not just limited to the construction of their homes. Their practical approach extends to something as simple yet effective as planting trees. While most of us are busy adjusting the thermostat or trying to find the right fan to alleviate the heat, the Amish have been ahead of the game for years by strategically planting trees around their homes. And believe it or not, this is where nature truly shows off its ability to cool things down, for free. You might think this is just some charming tree-hugging practice, but there's real science behind it. A well-placed tree can cut cooling costs by up to 25%. That's right, 25%. But here's the kicker. The Amish didn't need to read an energy-saving guide to figure that out. They've been using trees as natural air conditioners long before anyone had to worry about energy bills or cooling costs. Trees do more than just offer shade or a cozy spot to sit beneath. They act like a natural umbrella, blocking the sun's intense rays from beating directly onto the house. And in places like Arizona, where the sun can feel like it's burning everything in sight, having that shade is a game changer. The Amish strategically position trees around their homes to reduce the amount of heat that directly hits their walls, windows, and roofs. This helps keep their homes significantly cooler, with no electricity, no maintenance, just good old-fashioned shade from nature itself. It's almost like having a built-in air conditioner that doesn't require filters, repairs, or a pricey electric bill. In fact, I remember visiting an Amish family one summer, and the first thing I noticed was how surprisingly cool their yard was, despite the scorching heat everywhere else. I couldn't help but ask how they kept it so comfortable without an AC unit. Without hesitation, they pointed to a giant oak tree shading their home. "That's our AC," they said with a smile. Talk about efficiency, but the cooling power of trees doesn't stop at the house. The Amish are also clever about using trees to provide shade for outdoor areas, especially where they work. Imagine working on a farm in the sweltering Arizona heat with no escape, no air conditioning. For most of us, that sounds unbearable. But for the Amish, Strategically planted trees, it's like having a natural canopy to protect them from the sun's relentless rays. This strategy is not just about comfort, but about sustainability too. While modern methods might rely on power-hungry systems, the Amish have kept their cooling methods low-tech, using resources they already have around them. These trees are an excellent example of how simple, thoughtful planning can make a huge difference in the quality of life. Instead of spending money on cooling systems that require constant upkeep, the Amish plant a tree, let it grow, and enjoy the natural benefits it provides year after year. They work with the environment instead of trying to overpower it with expensive technology. In fact, the Amish lifestyle offers a whole new perspective on how we approach our own living spaces. Maybe we don't all have the luxury of building homes with thick walls, high ceilings, and strategically placed trees, but there's no harm in looking at how the Amish have learned to live in harmony with nature. They've figured out ways to stay cool without blowing through energy bills or relying on a constant stream of electricity. It's a lesson in sustainable living, and it's something we can all learn from. In the end, it's not about fancy gadgets, high-tech cooling systems, or spending a fortune on energy bills. It's about using what's already available and learning to live with the environment, not against it. The Amish have mastered the art of staying cool in the desert heat, and they're proof that sometimes the best solutions are the simplest. The Amish truly know how to live in harmony with the environment, especially when it comes to staying cool during scorching summer months. While most of us are scrambling for gadgets and high-tech solutions, the Amish have a far simpler and more sustainable approach. They strategically plant trees around their homes, barns, and even their fields to create shady spots where they can retreat during the hottest part of the day. These trees provide relief from the sun without the need for air conditioning, which is a major win in places like Arizona, where the temperature can soar well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But the Amish aren't just randomly planting trees, they're incredibly thoughtful about where they place them. They typically plant trees on the south and west sides of their homes, where the sun hits hardest. This simple yet effective strategy blocks the hottest rays and helps keep their homes cooler for longer. It's about understanding the natural rhythms of the sun and working with them, rather than against them. This level of foresight is something modern society seems to have forgotten in its rush to invent the next cooling gadget. And here's a fun fact. Planting a tree for shade is one of the oldest and simplest methods of staying cool. Long before air conditioning became the norm, people were using trees to block the sun and keep their homes cooler. The Amish have never given up on this natural cooling system, which works better than any modern technology. Trees don't just provide shade, they also cool the air through a process called evapotranspiration. In simpler terms, trees release moisture into the air, which helps lower the temperature around them. It's nature's version of a swamp cooler, but without the need for electricity, filters, or maintenance. Studies show that air under a tree can be up to 10 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than the surrounding air in direct sunlight. That may not sound like much, but in the scorching Arizona heat, that 10-degree difference can make a huge impact. The Amish have known this for generations, long before anyone had to consult scientific studies. They don't need fancy terms to explain it. They've felt it firsthand. What's even more impressive is that this cooling strategy works seamlessly with everything else we've talked about. The thick walls, high ceilings, and strategic window placement all complement the shade provided by the trees. Together, they create a natural, low-cost cooling system that doesn't rely on power-hungry air conditioning units. It's the Amish way of living sustainably and efficiently, using what nature provides rather than depending on technology. Speaking of which, let's talk about another cooling strategy the Amish use: old-school ventilation. You might think of this as something out of the past, but the Amish have mastered the art of natural airflow. No air conditioning, no buzzing fans, just a series of windows placed strategically to catch the perfect breeze. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly effective. The Amish know exactly which windows to open at different times of the day, depending on where the wind is coming from and how the sun moves across the sky. When they open the windows at just the right times, they create a cross breeze that pushes the warm air out while pulling cool air in. This natural air circulation is like a fan, but without the noise, constant hum, or electricity. I once visited an Amish farmhouse during a blistering summer day, and as soon as I walked in, I was hit with a cool, gentle breeze. No AC, no fans, just windows positioned in perfect harmony with the outdoors. And remember, those high ceilings play a big role in this too. Hot air naturally rises, so when the Amish open the windows on opposite sides of the house, the cool air sweeps through the lower level, pushing the hot air up and out. It's like an automatic air filtration system, all powered by nature. One of the best parts of this system, it doesn't cost a dime. Unlike modern air conditioning, which can cost a small fortune to run during the summer, this method is completely free. It's the epitome of nature-powered cooling, and the Amish have been doing it long before electric fans were even a thing. But wait, there's more. The Amish also have summer kitchens, and trust me, this is as clever as it sounds. Cooking indoors during the summer months can turn your home into an oven. In fact, just cooking dinner can raise indoor temperatures by as much as 10 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the last thing you want when it's already over 100 degrees Fahrenheit outside. So what did the Amish do? They moved the cooking outdoors. That's right. During the summer, they use summer kitchens, which are separate cooking spaces built outside or attached to the house. The key idea here is to keep the heat out of the main living area. While most of us are cranking up the AC after making a hot dinner indoors, the Amish are cooking up their meals without raising the temperature inside. It's simple, yet incredibly effective. Heat rises, so by cooking outside, they prevent their homes from turning into saunas. In the end, the Amish have a lot to teach us when it comes to staying cool naturally. From strategically planted trees to smart ventilation and summer kitchens, they've found ways to keep their homes comfortable without relying on costly, power-hungry technology. It's all about working with nature, not against it, and it's a solution that's been working for generations. The Amish take a smart, simple approach to staying cool during the summer, and it all starts with the ingenious summer kitchen. While most of us dread the thought of cooking in the heat, the Amish have solved this problem by moving their cooking outdoors. Picture this: a whole roast chicken, potatoes, and homemade bread, all cooked outside, in a space designed to keep the heat out of the main living area. It's like a picnic every day, but with way better food. Instead of adding heat to the house, they keep the cooking heat outside, which is one of the most practical ways to stay cool. Why crank up the AC when you can just cook outside and keep your living space comfortable? Once again, the Amish show their knack for working smarter, not harder. By designing their homes and lifestyles around the seasons, they manage to stay comfortable without the need for modern conveniences like air conditioning. It's a prime example of living in harmony with nature, not fighting against it. Now let's dig a little deeper. The Amish have another brilliant solution for staying cool, even without a refrigerator. Enter the ice house. These aren't your typical sheds or barns. They are deep, insulated pits where ice harvested during the winter months is packed away to last through the summer. Think of it as a pre-electricity freezer, except it's buried in the ground, working quietly and steadily to keep food cool. While most of us are running to the store for ice bags, the Amish have giant blocks of ice stored underground, kept in place with sawdust or straw for extra insulation. This system is low maintenance and can keep food cool for months, all the way from winter to the peak of summer heat. It's pretty amazing that this simple method can keep perishables like meat and milk fresh without the hum of a refrigerator. Ice houses work with nature's cycles, using the coldest months to prepare for the hottest ones. It's a perfect example of how the Amish harness nature's elements to do the heavy lifting instead of relying on electricity. No plugs, no bills, just a shovel, some straw, and a whole lot of common sense. I tried making my own ice house once, a far cry from the Amish version. But let's just say their system is a lot more effective. And speaking of staying cool, here's an unexpected strategy: Amish clothing. You might wonder how the Amish manage the heat while wearing long sleeves and wide-brimmed hats. Believe it or not, those layers are actually helping them stay cool. It's the same principle that desert nomads use, protecting the body from direct sunlight. When the sun hits your bare skin, it's like turning yourself into an oven. But when you wear light, loose clothing, it creates a barrier that keeps the sun off your skin and allows air to flow underneath, keeping you cooler in the long run. Research even shows that light, loose-fitting clothing reduces the amount of heat your body absorbs. So those long sleeves aren't just for modesty, they're a smart, effective cooling technique. And let's not forget about the wide-brimmed hats. They're not just for avoiding sunburn, they actually help keep you cooler by shading your face and neck from the sun's direct rays. So next time you're braving the heat, you might want to rethink the tank top and baseball cap for a long-sleeve shirt and a big hat. Trust me, your grandma would approve. Ultimately, the Amish approach to heat isn't just about practical tricks. It's about a mindset of resilience. They've learned to adapt, not by escaping the heat, but by embracing it and designing their way of life around it. This mindset comes from generations of living simply, making do with what they have. As the old Amish saying goes, it's all about learning to live with what you have. So if you're facing your first summer without AC, you've got two options: adapt or start Googling homes in Alaska. From tall ceilings to ice houses to summer kitchens, these strategies reflect a way of life that's in perfect harmony with nature. It proves that sometimes the best way to beat the heat isn't by relying on gadgets, but by embracing simple